Hello boys and girls, welcome to another episode of FoulkesBrau. Today is April the 21st, it's a Tuesday, we're on day 26 of lockdown in South Africa. The results as of last night, we are now on 3,300 infections. It's up 142 from the previous day. As you can see, the last 4 days, the cells are highlighted in red. That is because we are higher than 100 infections a day. The average infection rate per day now, from the beginning of this, from my data set, is now sitting at 92 a day. Our deaths are up by 4 from the previous results, and now we are sitting at 58. Our day-on-day growth, 4.5%. Our tests conducted to date are 121,510. That is 6.8% up on the previous day. You can also see the last 4 days are highlighted in green. That's because we've been conducting over 5,000 tests a day, which is the yardstick I've been using as a positive. The percentage of infections, in other words, tests per infections, 2.72%. The percentage of the population tested, 0.2%. The mortality rate, 1.76%. Our rand is currently sitting at R8.85 to the dollar, so that's a decline of 5.28% since we entered the lockdown. We can see with our confidence level calc, our confidence interval now is sitting at 22.32. If we add that to the mean, we should be at about 114.32. Our average infections of the last day, or last 7 days, however, is sitting at 146.86. So we are exceeding our confidence level calc. So yes, that is not a good sign. In the news. Yesterday we ran with a story about these food parcels and really how could it cost $1,200 and whatever. Anyway, after a bit of government investigation, for want of a better word, they have come to the conclusion that this is actually what has been going on is true, and certain people are trying to screw the system and they're quite upset and whatever, but let's see what comes out of it, because you can jump up and down and say you're upset all you want. If you never bring the perpetrators to justice, it doesn't help much. A whole bunch of snot going on. You may be aware in South Africa that if you're in South Africa, you should be very aware that you cannot buy non-essential goods. So you can go to the shop, you can buy food, etc., etc. But you cannot go to the hardware store and buy a tap if your tap is buggered or whatever. And now the argument that has been going on since Friday was about prepared food. So you cannot buy hot food. So if you went to your supermarket and they prepare, I don't know, roast chickens, for example, or well, that was the big thing, or pies or whatever, they're not allowed to do it anymore. Now, I don't... Either they've been very draconian and they've shot themselves in the foot because they shut down restaurants and whatever. So either they're trying to comply with the restaurants and saying, oh, well, if we had a restaurant, you could go get takeaways and there'd be hot food. So therefore the supermarkets, because we shut the restaurants down, the supermarkets are not allowed to prepare hot food. And as true as Bob, they went and they put this in the government gazette yesterday, that the supermarkets are not allowed to sell you hot food. So they're not allowed to prepare hot food and whatever. They can, which is a bit daft to me. The way I understand it, so they're allowed to cook whatever they make, or prepare whatever they make, chickens or whatever, but then they must cool it, and you can buy it cold. And the idea is that they're not going to encourage congregation of people. Now, the logic is mind-boggling. It makes no sense, because you go to the supermarket, I went to the supermarket last week, and you go there and people are just wandering around aimlessly because they don't want to be in lockdown, and they miss the social contact. So I really don't understand the reasoning there. What is coming out is that the cigarette companies and those guys are losing a lot of money. So these cigarette companies have now climbed onto it and said, hang on, we want to be able to sell our cigarettes because we don't see the correlation with this or how it's causing problems. So we need to be able to sell our cigarettes. And I hope like hell they lift that, because I'm a smoker. I mean, it's been a week since that I've had it without a cigarette, or over a week now, and I've got this bloody thing, which is not the same. And I don't particularly like being dictated to about how I should live my life. I understand that we have to stay in lockdown, whatever. And I understand we shouldn't be congregating in the streets, but to tell me that I can't smoke in my own house or that I cannot buy cigarettes to smoke in my own house is mind-boggling, because it is legal for me to buy dacha in South Africa. I can go buy boom, I can go buy a bank bag of spliff and roll my own joint and sit on my balcony and smoke it, and no worries. The thing though is, if you go and read the social media comments and the guys buying on the black market and what they're paying for a box of cigarettes. Now, I don't know how true this is because I haven't bothered to look on the black market or whatever, but the guys are paying 120 Rand, South African Rands, for a box of 20 cigarettes. Now, that same box of cigarettes before the lockdown, if you bought it at a garage or whatever, or a supermarket, would be about 44 Rand on average. If you've bought it from somebody that was selling illegal cigarettes, it would be below 40 Rand. It would be about 38, 35 Rand for the same box of 20s. Now it's sitting at 120, just over 120 Rand, so it's threefold. The price of a bang bag of dacha, apparently, is 30 Rand. So now go and explain it. Please, government, explain the logic to me. So maybe what I must do is I must go buy myself a bang bag of Saul. We'll make a video and we'll light up and smoke a Saul on TV because it's legal in South Africa. But yeah, that is the logic. So now the FETA guys are going to, they've gone and put a request in to lift the ban on cigarette sales. So we will see how the government responds to this thing. The big thing in the news is the lifting of the lockdown. And this is not a trivial thing, because a lot of companies and big companies are putting their staff, well, let's put this properly, they are during now this extended phase of the lockdown. So now you must imagine we've had the first phase. So for me, this is coming up. So we've had our first one. I'm actually coming up to my second paycheck second pay period of while we've been in the lockdown. And a lot of companies are, because the employees are not working, and it just tells you how bad our economy was going before this, are basically, and these, like I say, they're big companies, but let's not go into names. They are giving their employees the option of, okay, great, well, we can't afford to just keep you at home. You can now put in your annual leave. And if you put in annual leave, then we will pay you. Obviously, if you're working for a company and you've got annual leave and you put in leave, they pay you while you're on leave. And so they are now telling the employees to do this. And where the employees don't have annual leave, they are forcing them to take unpaid leave. And this has got to do with the UIF claims and all this snot. The point is not whether what the companies are doing is good or bad. The point is how bad the economy was doing before we even hit coronavirus or COVID-19 or whatever. The problem is that we are now in this lockdown. The government's shut down on a lot of companies and whatever, and understandably so, to try and buy themselves some time. Because if we don't prepare for this thing, we will have a huge problem when this infection takes off. But there are certain things that cannot operate. It just makes no sense because you have such a high density of people in that sort of, let's say, sphere of employment. But, and we've done it in an earlier video where we looked at what the government is losing in tax a day, just in tax from alcohol and from cigarettes. The numbers are scary. So I can't understand why they're killing stupid things like that. I mean, hot foods. Let's please, the majority of policemen and whatever are trying to do the job. It's the odd bad apple that gets caught with rubbish during this time. But these guys, healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, caregivers, are working long hours. Now you're trying to tell them that when they knock off, if they happen to knock off when the shops are open, that they can go there, but they must buy whatever they need, then go home and still prepare food, cook and do whatever. I can promise you that doctor person or whatever nurse has been working 48 hours. The last fucking thing on their mind is to go home and cook a meal. Really, I don't understand how the logic is working. I mean, when we brew beer, the point of boiling, one of the main points of boiling the wort, in other words, you've mashed, you extracted all the sugar from the grains and whatever, now you boil it. One of the main points of boiling the wort is to sterilize it, not sanitize, sterilize. You're boiling it for at least an hour. That's to kill any bloody germ that might be in that you've bought from wherever. The other spin-offs of obviously boiling the wort is to bring color to it and to because when you start boiling sugar, obviously you darken it, so you bring color to it, and you summarize the alpha acids of the hops. You extract the bitterness of the hops to give it bitterness, and it's a flavor thing as well. So but the main thing of boiling the wort is to sterilize it. Now, the main thing of cooking food is to kill off whatever germs. So I really can't understand what they think is going to be transferred, or how they think that you're going to create a gathering of people or whatever. I mean, the person's going to pop into the supermarket. If it's anything like the supermarkets that I've seen, the rotisserie chickens are in a bag. It's on a like a hot plate type serving deli type thing. You go, you pick up your bag and you go and you pay. There's no congregating. So I don't know what draconian measures our government thinks they are achieving with this. The degree of control that they want is mind-boggling. I am trying to tell you what you can think and what you cannot think, and what you can do and what you cannot do, and that to me is really not on. I don't understand. I really don't understand it. But anyway, we're not going to ramble on too much. Apparently we've got 9 days left in South Africa of this lockdown, and there's an article about the 5 things South Africa must get right before the lockdown is lifted. What we don't know is, are they going to lift it or are they not going to lift it? That we don't know yet. I personally don't believe that they will lift it. Not the way infections are going, because what I do believe is, as they test more and more people and get a bigger thin slice, as I would call it, as they get a better sample pool, I think they're going to find that the infection rate is much higher than what they think. And the problem is, one of the methods to the madness is, okay, if we can find all these infected people, we can keep them isolated and would not reintroduce them into the population. My suspicion is that it is too late for that. I think those people are already in the population, and not to create fear-mongering or whatever, they are amongst us, whatever it is, what it is. I mean, the nature of this infection is you can be carrying it and not even know. From what I can see, with some people they get very ill and it's life-threatening, and other people it's like having a little sniffle. So, and we can't even distinguish, is it a very fit person that feels nothing, or is it a very sick person that feels the whole thing? It doesn't seem so. I mean, one of our swimmers, top swimmers, got donut with this thing and he almost croaked. So there doesn't seem to be that much correlation on, if you this sort of person, you're really going to suffer, or if you're that sort of person, you're not going to suffer. So I can't even tell you that. My suspicion is that once they start, like they're ramping up the test now, and once they get a better slice of the population and get a better picture, but they're going to find that the infection rate is way worse than they thought. So it's not just a case of isolating the people that are infected and the rest of you can go on like nothing happened. I don't believe it's going to be that. But anyway, the 5 things that the government must get a handle on before they can lift the lockdown. So they talk about community transmissions. Basically what they're trying to say there is what I've just been talking about. They want to distinguish between active cases and passive cases, and they want to find out who is infected and try and isolate that so that they can prevent, because the thing that they're scared of is one person can give it to 3 and so on, and then each one of those guys goes on and give it to 3, and so we go on, so it grows exponentially. So they're very scared of that, so they need to get ramp up their testing and get a handle on that rate, the number of the transmission rate. The next one is, obviously they want a social economic relief strategy. They need some sort of a plan in place for people that have been hit by this, to feed them, to care for them, to look after them and things like that. They obviously need to ramp up the testing. We've spoken about that. They need to do a lot more testing to get a bigger sample pool, a bigger data set. A public education campaign, in other words, now we're going to educate you, you're going to go back to work, and this is how you must carry on and whatever. And then workplace screening. Now, workplace screening. we know in the past couple of days, say a week and a bit, a lot of healthcare people, or people in the healthcare, healthcare essential services, let's rather call it that. So we've had hospitals that have been shut because of doctors, nurses, whatever, being infected with this thing. We've had problems with chemists, where the chemists, people working at the chemist, the pharmacists, are getting sick because they are infected with the thing. We've had supermarkets having to close down because the staff working there is becoming infected with this thing. So we know that this thing jumps like hell in the workplace. How are they going to do workplace screening and physical distancing in a lot of jobs? I have no idea. The majority of South Africa's labour market is labour intense. In other words, it's a lot of workforce to do the job, and it's not like you are a meter away from each other or anything like that, or minimum or whatever. Never mind the behavioral patterns of a lot of the majority of South Africans. It's not a nation conditioned to social distancing or anything like that. I really don't know how they're going to do this workplace screening, and I don't see how they're going to be able to implement it. The problem comes in, do we do this antibody test, which doesn't, it tells you if you've had it, it doesn't tell you if you've got it. Taking your temperature doesn't help because you might be carrying the thing. It just hasn't hit you yet. You don't have any of the symptoms. And I can't see, for every employee, them doing the normal genetic thing, because that takes hours. So I think there's a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of political pandering going on at the moment, and I think it's actually very sad. I think instead of trying to score political points, I think these clever people, and make no mistake, we don't have idiots, but what they should use, you've got clever professional students sitting at varsities, mathematicians, actuaries, whatever, geneticists. Use those guys and come up with a plan, because they're not politically motivated in general. Most career students are not. Most academics are not really politically not to the extreme as we think, but they should use them and use those guys to come up with a plan, because everything I'm hearing in the news is some sort of political pandering in one way or another. It's a political points scoring game, and to me that is very wrong at the moment, because people are dying, people are getting sick. The last thing is whether my party or my political faction did this for the people, or your political faction did that for the people. I really think they must put that aside and put the people first. Now, we know for a fact that the majority of the population in South Africa is below the breadline. We know for a fact that we were on the brink of being declared junk before COVID-19. It was just a matter of time. The only thing that COVID-19 did is forced the ratings agencies' hand. That was it. We were going that way regardless. The government, whoever needs to step in, they need to stop corruption where we're bleeding and hemorrhaging money into rubbish, and use that money to uplift the poor, and not with the snot we saw over the weekend with those parcels. They must lock those bastards up when they find them, or catch them as a lesson to the next. And so we go on, because those people, the majority of the population that's below the breadline, the poorest of the poor, are going to be where this thing hits badly. As any pandemic, plague, whatever, it always starts there. Very well, it spreads like wildfire there. So we need to look after those people and build it from there. Anyway, it's the numbers are not looking good, but the positive side of the numbers is that the tests are increasing, or the number of tests per day are increasing, which is a really fantastic effort, I think, from the guys that are involved with it. I really think they are driving hard to get to that 10,000 number. And then there was another prof on last night on 702 talking about that. I think their target is something like 16,000 tests a day. Let's hope they get this soon, and let's hold thumbs. Yeah. Anyway, until the next one, as always, take care, take safe, stay safe, stay home, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.